Lets you install a select amount of programs that have been optimized or are available for the operating system, and this is also not that program. What the hell is that program? Excuse the shoddy lighting, but good day, folks. Jordan here today with a OptiPlex GX270. But not just any random OptiPlex GX270, at least in terms of the software side of things. Let me show you what this thing's running. So, a long time ago I got a comment from a YouTuber whom I can't recall their name or whatever, and they suggested that I check out this operating system known as Linux Lite. You can see it's booting up right now. Now, I don't believe it was so long ago, I can't recall if it was a video request or if it was just a suggestion that I should try with some of these old Pentium 4 computers, more specifically the Dell OptiPlexes and the Dimension 2400 and 3000 and so on and so forth, yada yada yada. I don't actually own a 3000, I'm just using it to reference, but I digress. So I was suggested this operating system to try out to see how well it would run, as he's found that, or whoever suggested this operating system to me said it ran a lot better and was more, up to date than Windows XP. And well, as you can see, we are here today to try to test that out. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of depth about comparing this operating system to Windows XP. Maybe that might be a future video if anybody's really interested in it. But personally, for me right now in this video, I'm just exploring Linux Lite itself, so I'm not going to focus too much about the numbers between this and Windows XP or Vista or 7 or anything like that. I'm just not even interested in that sort of thing. I'm just going to focus on Linux. So, really, for some reason, the monitor screwed up the audio last time I was using this. I don't know why it does that. I imagine it's probably got something to do with the VGA cable. But anyway, let's go and log in. I don't know why, but for some reason, I guess the CPU gets pegged and it just glitches on the login sound. But anyway, here you can see the desktop. This uses the XFCE desktop environment, which is a lightweight but still pretty decent looking desktop environment designed for lower memory consumption and lower CPU usage with stripped out animations and a basic font set to reduce disk usage. And it still looks pretty good. I like how the developers did this, and it still looks fine to me. I mean, I can obviously use this. It's a computer operating system. So, yeah. This computer is powered by a 2.4 GHz Pentium 4 CPU with hyperthreading and an 800 MHz front side bus, as well as 2 gigs of RAM. Now, this uses the integrated Intel Extreme 2 graphics, as we all like to call them. But more realistically, it's based on the Intel 865 chipset, as you can see down there on the OpenGL renderer line. And it has sound provided by the Intel ICH5 Southbridge, so nothing too fancy. That's about all I wanted to show with this program. So, my big question for this operating system, and the reason why I'm actually putting any time into it, is how does it run? Is it usable? Like, is it actually capable of still being useful as a daily use computer, or an office computer, or a kid's computer, even if that was your thing? And I have to say, there's a lot of boxes that are checked. One of the biggest ones is going to be the web browser. It does have Firefox Quantum, the latest version, which is, I believe, 58.0.2 is the latest release as of the making of this video, which will probably be a laughing stock for people watching this later on down the road, but who really cares? It's the latest as of the making of this video. But as you can see, here it is. It is optimized for Linux Lite, and I still don't like the way that Linux does the title bars, or at least this might be something to do with the XFCE desktop environment, causing the big title bar to have to hang out there. It really kind of ruins the aesthetic. But yep, you can see they still make 32-bit Firefox, although that's to no surprise considering they still have to support 32-bit Windows, although their Mac OS port is completely 64-bit now, so that's no surprise. And of course, I think that requires El Capitan to run. Anyway, let's go ahead and try to load some websites here. We're going to go to just my YouTube channel. I'm not the quickest one-hand typer, but I can type pretty quickly. Now, this is running off of Ethernet on a 25 meg connection, so don't exactly judge the speed of this web page loading test based on the computer. It's based on my networking as well, so it's not exactly a great network, but it does still tend to bottleneck the CPU at the very least, so it's a good test anyway. Alright. And again, this is just using the integrated Intel graphics, and well, let's see, let's pick a video that I won't exactly get slammed for. Oh wait, I'm playing my own videos, who cares? I use the Ashen's joke. Oh, what video can I play that I won't get copyright shanged on or something like that? I don't remember exactly what he said, but it doesn't really matter. So let's go ahead and set this to... Oh, it's already set to generous 480p, so we'll go ahead and just fix it to that so it doesn't try to go HD and then cause frame lags all over the place. And let's give it a go. This windshield wiper is driving me absolutely insane right now. Look what it's doing. Well, not quite the level of 480p playback, but I imagine that if you were to add a graphics card, that would probably clean that up quite a bit. And it also could be that it's relying on the CPU, but to really test that, let's go open the task manager. And one thing I have to say, I like this right-click menu that you get on the desktop. So you can open the terminal, the task manager, take a screenshot, open something as an administrator, get access to your desktop settings, and so on and so forth. But let's open up the task manager here, and let's see how we're looking. Now this only has 2 gigs of RAM, and it already has shared video memory going into powering the video. But as you can see, the memory usage is very low. I'm quite surprised to see that. The only real memory-intensive thing is Firefox, as you can see, that's using 253 megabytes of RAM. But really, the rest of the operating system is extremely lightweight, and it's barely using anything. So you can see it's highlighting the most memory-intensive program down there in yellow. Now, one thing I'm not sure what it differentiates as 2 CPUs, or if this is just recognizing it properly as a hyper-threaded CPU, but there's only one CPU graph. My guess is that it recognizes this as a hyper-threaded CPU, but inside of the system properties thing, it called it 2 CPUs, or dual-core CPU, so I don't know, I'm really not sure. But anyway, we're just going to go ahead and start playing this video. And that's safe. It doesn't show up on the photo mode, of course, but it just seems absolute. Ooh, yeah, look at that quality. Let's change it back to 640 by 40. That just looks ridiculous. It takes a while to pause. There we go. So yeah, it is clearly relying on the CPU, and you can tell in the audio that it was kind of having issues keeping up. So clearly, 480p is not this computer's stronghold, at least at the moment with the Intel integrated video. Am I surprised? No, I'm really not. I imagine if I had a more powerful Pentium 4, it might struggle to play 480p with little to no frame drops if you let it sit and play for a little while, but considering the operating system we're running and the fact that we're trying to push modern YouTube on this thing, I don't see why that's any surprise that it can't play 480p. I mean, we're talking about a freaking socket 478 Pentium 4 here. Don't expect any kind of miracles. What's another website that we can try? Maybe Reddit. Reddit will give me a decent test. I know a lot of people use Reddit, but I don't, and I don't care. So there's a lot of social media sites I could care less about, but that didn't take too terribly long to load. At least I don't think so. I mean, as long as you're patient and you're not expecting too much of your computer, I mean, this is totally fine for browsing the internet. It still seems to work quite well. The smooth scrolling is actually disabled by default in this OS. They don't enable it by default, or yeah, they don't enable it by default. I believe you can turn that on if you so wish, but not on the graphics subset like this one. I think it's under something like this. I don't remember, but yeah, use auto scrolling and smooth scrolling, all that stuff. That's all disabled, so yeah. What's another website we can try? We could probably try, I don't think Instagram is really gonna... And this is another social media site that I don't use either, but I don't care to, because I think Instagram's the most pointless social media site ever. My opinions aside, you can see it loaded decently. I don't have an account, so I can't log in, and I don't care to. So, what's another site that we could load? We could probably load foxnews.com. Let's see how that loads. Wow, that actually came up surprisingly quickly. Or at least for being a busy, packed news site with a ton of JavaScripts on it. That came up very fast. So, yeah, That's crazy. Let's try CNN. See how quick it loads CNN. CNN is one of the worst websites for this sort of thing, but we'll see. It's getting stuck on TLS handshakes. No surprise. But it is coming up. It is certainly doing it. No formatting errors, of course, because this is the latest Firefox. Also, that's really interesting about the Toys R Us thing, although, I don't know, I don't have too terribly many fond memories of Toys R Us. I remember going there back in the day as a kid, but honestly, I mean, it's kind of doomed. Amazon's pretty much taken over that sort of market anyway, and besides, I bet their prices are really ridiculous, so who really goes there anymore? I mean, the local Toys R Us to us, which is about 100 miles away, no surprise, their parking lot's been, like, drooping and drooping, and, yeah. But, I mean, it looks to work. This website's loading, for the most part, just fine. Oh, yeah, it's right. That's not doing a very good job at caching the website. Yeah, that's what I expected. But no surprise there, so we're just going to cut that JavaScript thing out. Let's see, let's try... I know Yahoo tends to be a pretty intensive website sometimes, depending on the day. I know not a lot of people use Yahoo anymore. I know some people do, and I personally don't, because I think Yahoo is just no better than Google, and Google loads faster, so yeah. I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I'm not going to deny the fact that it does take a little while to load some websites, but it's okay. I mean, it gets the job done. I mean, if you're patient, it'll get the job done. It'll load websites just fine, so I'm not too worried about it. I just worry about all these damn advertisements on these websites nowadays. This would definitely be a cure for AdBlock Plus, but it's all right. So, we'll leave that open in the background. We'll try some multitasking here. Let's go to LibreOffice. Let's do the presentation. And we'll see how long it takes to load this. Hint, it really doesn't take all that long at all. See, look at how decently quickly that came up. So, there you go. You got yourself a presentation making program, which comes with the operating system by default. We'll minimize that. We'll open up a terminal. Why not? That's another program we can open up. It has GIMP, so let's open up the GIMP. What version does it even come with? I don't remember. Everybody should know that GIMP takes forever to load. It doesn't matter what you're running it on, but I'm running this for the first time, so let's see how long it takes. And done. It actually didn't take as long as I thought it was going to take. It actually launched decently quickly. Obviously, this is no SSD and Core i9 7980XE, but hey, it still loaded at a decent pace, so it's even doing that effect pretty nicely there. So that's cool. So long it takes to close it. Not too bad. Let's see, does this have VLC? It does have VLC. And there we go. There's VLC. It didn't take too long to open. Actually, I'll probably leave that open. Just leave it open in the background, just like some of the other ones. Let's see. Open a calculator. We'll open up... Ooh, Thunderbird. Let's try that. Thunderbird ought to be a decently intensive program. Of course, that's your email client. And I figured this is some of the average stuff that some people might have open, minus the terminal, on their office computer or something. So, I figured this would be a decent test to see just how responsive the system can be. And I'll open up a couple extra tabs in Firefox to give it a more of an intense test to see how it's working. We'll configure account later. And let's see, let's go open up, I don't know, Facebook. Let me try Facebook. Actually, Facebook had a button right there. And then, let's see, I don't know, we'll go load, I cannot type. That's the Linux Lite search. I don't want to do that. It is starting to choke a little bit, you can tell. It is starting to choke. But it is still keeping up quite well. I'm really surprised. So let's see. What's another one we can load up? We can load up Twitter. You know, you probably won't get too much to look at. No, not really. What's another one that we can load up? Trying to think of some other websites that we could probably load up. Let's reload Fox News. We'll let that load in the background, and let's see what the task manager shows for memory usage. Really? Only 50%? With all this stuff open? What the hell? Okay, yeah, it is starting to increase now that Fox News loads, but what the hell? That is unbelievably efficient. I mean, given that Windows would have probably been scrambling at the page file by now, this is impressive. It seriously is impressive. It's not even using any of the swaps, so I gotta give hats off to friggin' whoever develops this Linux distro. I mean, I know it's a fork of Ubuntu, but wow, that is seriously impressive. Yeah, Fox News is definitely taxing the memory, but still, it has not touched the swap yet. And this is only 2 gigs of RAM with shared video memory. And that is crazy. That is unbelievable. One thing I do like about Linux Lite is it has its own little like app store, but it's not like the Ubuntu Software Center or anything like that. That's the wrong program. I know it's in there somewhere. I just gotta remember where the heck it was. There's a program inside of this list that you can click and open, and it lets you, yeah, there it is, install remove software. And it lets you install a select amount of programs that have been optimized or are available for the operating system. And this is also not that program. What the hell is that program? I know it's in the operating system somewhere. I keep opening up the wrong ones, and I have to figure out where the hell it is. I know it's somewhere in here, but it, like, I can't... Oh, is it that one? I think that was the one. I believe that was it. Yeah, close the other program, so I think this is it. I think this is the one. Yes, I would like to update the software sources. Now, keep in mind that this is 32-bit Linux. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing for older computers, but for programs that require 64-bit Linux, won't work. Programs like Discord and Skype have completely moved to 64-bit only on Linux, so unfortunately you have to use the web-based versions of those apps, and that just kind of bites. I wish they'd still make 32-bit releases, because Skype moved on to that newer interface that they mandated 64-bit. I think Discord has always been 64-bit, so I don't know. Anyway, let's go and install some software. There's actually quite a decent selection of programs that are actually on this little software thing. As you can see, there's Audacity, you get Chromium, Dropbox, FileZilla, Kodi, Play on Linux. You even get Shotwell, which I know some people use that on Linux. Spotify, Steam, TeamViewer. You get the Tor web browser if that's something you're really into. Wine, VirtualBox, and OpenShot. So, I think what we'll do, I'm going to select a few programs out of this list, and we're going to let it install. I'm not going to go through every single program, but I figured I'd install at least a couple to see how they'll run on this system, and I will get back to you. Alright, so there we got the software I'm going to install, and I think my VGA cable has got some weird problems because it's making all the flickering you see on your screen. It gets worse, too. I'm not sure if that's something to do with Linux and the drivers, because once I restart it goes away. I'm assuming that it's got something to do with Linux, because normally I don't think this happens under Windows, so the shaking you see on the text and on the borders of the windows, I think that's got something to do with Linux, because it starts after a little while and then you really notice it. It gets kind of distracting. It looks really dumb. And nothing you can do to the VGA cable will get it to stop, so my guess is it's got something to do with the onboard video not working properly with Linux Lite, which is no surprise, so yeah. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and let this download and install, and I will be right back. Essentially, it's just running terminal commands inside of this little window there, doing like the sudo apt-get or something like that. It's basically what it's doing. About 5 minutes later, it's completed with all those installs, so I'm really surprised. Although I didn't install too terribly much in the way of anything. I'm going to quit out of that. And let's see what we got here. So we got Wine, so that's already installed. So I'm wondering, I installed VirtualBox. It looks like it's under accessories. Because I have the dumbest idea ever put into fruition. We're going to try and install a virtual machine using this computer at some point. I mean, why not? Probably don't want to push my luck. I mean, this is 32-bit VirtualBox, so I'm not going to go too crazy. But let's see if we can install Windows 2000. I got to put in a name, so... Recommended memory size is 168 megabytes. Who the hell came up with that idea? That's a weird amount. Put in 256. That's more than enough. Create a virtual hard disk now. This VirtualBox thing is a fixed size, and then 4 gigs is fine. So let me go find my Windows 2000 CD. Ooh, reflective. Also, look at this doofus behind the optical disc here. This is gonna fail so hard, I know it. That is actually a very generous amount of simulated video memory. We're just gonna leave the settings on by whatever OtterBox. I just said OtterBox. God damn it. Whatever freaking VirtualBox has by default. Oh, it even mounted the CD for us. How nice. Get out of here. All right. So yes, use the host drive as the optical drive. Oh my God! It's actually working. Holy crap. Now that's surprising. Alright, we can go and minimize the VM manager here. What the hell? It's actually working. That's impressive. Rate control. Okay, I'll have to keep that in mind. Oh, it even says so down there. That's nice. Let's see. I think it's right control F to go full screen, isn't it? Can we go full screen? Yes, we can go full screen. Wow. I'm impressed. I mean, I'm not going to say I doubted the Pentium 4. But man, that's impressive. Although I have to say, this kind of has an iPhone X-esque feel because you can see the bar down at the bottom. Okay, I'll quit now. Alright. We all know Windows 2000 setup, so it is what it is. To continue setup, press C. A. So, let's do a full format using NTFS. Let's see how fast this formats, because I'm kind of curious. Shouldn't take too long. Oh yeah, there it goes. So yeah, I'm going to try installing Windows 2000, and we'll see how well it works. Is that Linux doing this? Oh, you betcha. Although I think that's more along the lines of the virtual machine having a display glitch than anything. Wow, that is really, really funny looking. What in the world? Yeah, it's definitely Linux. It's not the virtual machine. This is Linux doing that. So this is a perfect example of what I was talking about earlier with, you know, all this stupid lines and stuff going all over the place. That's Linux doing it. So it's fine. And the virtual machine just kept crashing, so no surprise there. And I'm also updating the Windows tablet, so yeah. Anywho, let's see. I did actually eject the CD, so it's still mounted for some reason. I don't know. I guess unmount, whatever. So, anywho, yeah. I don't want to do too terribly much and make this video long enough already, so I figure, let's open up OpenShot just out of curiosity. Let's see how that looks. Sure is taking a couple seconds. There it is. Not too bad. That's one really long preview window. I don't think we'll need it that big. And I also need to dumb down the size of that. So, yeah, there we go. So, yeah. I think that's about it for this particular video. I don't want to stretch it on too terribly long. So, we'll just go ahead and shut it down here. Let's see how long it takes to shut down. I don't think it's going to take too terribly long. Normally, Linux doesn't take too terribly long to shut down in general, but some of them do. Let's pray so. And off. Not bad. So what do I think about Linux Lite? Well, there's a quote on this little features thing that is pretty much a summarization of what I was going to say. Linux Lite is hands down not only one of the best lightweight Linux distributions I've ever used,
but probably one of the single best distributions geared towards new users. And they're referencing like new users to Linux, because basically what I was going to say was this distro is perfect for running on older or lower end computers, and it's also a perfect stepping stone into understanding Linux and how it works, what kind of experiences and apps you're going to find, and everything like that. This is the operating system that can get you started on that route because it's easy to understand, everything is included, it's fast, it's very well optimized down to a T, and it's readily available, and it's free, and it's very, very user friendly. There's just not much to hate about. I mean, sure, yes, there is like a lack of visual, like, bang. There's nothing like that. But that's not the point. The point of this operating system is to be fast. It's supposed to be lightweight. It's supposed to be easy to understand. It's supposed to be secure, which it is. And it nails every single one of those points. Very, very impressive. It's just the perfect Linux. Now, obviously, the bigger names like Ubuntu and Linux Mint, those are kind of hard to tackle down because they have their own user base, they have their own forums, they have established some kind of support from people like Steam, for example. They're making Steam available on Ubuntu and Linux Mint, and Steam is also available, as shown previously in this video, for Linux Lite. So, I mean, everything kind of just ties together. I mean, I kind of ran that sentence off to a different point of which I don't know why I did that, but besides the point. Linux Lite is definitely a very well balanced Linux distribution that I've used in quite a while. And honestly, I do think that if it wasn't for Windows XP and Windows Vista being out of support like they are now, and Windows Update not being so broken on them, I'd probably still use those. But if it wasn't for the fact that those are the way they are now, Linux Lite is a very convincing operating system to replace Windows with on these computers. And it's very cool that it does allow for the installation of Wine, which is the program of which you can run Windows programs on Linux. So, I mean, it's a no-brainer. It really is something that you have to try it to understand, and you have to try it to see if it's something that you could be interested in. Like with every distribution of Linux, of course, it's not going to be perfect, and it's not for the faint of heart for senior citizens, for example. You can't just set up a Linux computer and expect a senior citizen to know what to do, unlike possibly with Windows or Mac OS, where they might be able to figure out something in 5 minutes or less. So it is what it is. But this is very close to being that sort of operating system approach. Now, I mean, granted, Zorin OS, which looks very much like Windows, will probably get a little bit closer because it's purpose-built, designed to look like Windows, but it's still Linux, and it comes with Wine out of the box, and so on and so forth, which I'll take a look at Zorin OS in a future video if anybody's interested. But getting back onto the topic, Zorin OS is purpose-built to look like Windows in the first place. This is not. This has the XFCE desktop environment, like I've shown in the video, because obviously that's what the operating system comes with. And yes, it is definitely something that you could get used to pretty quickly, as it has very nice categorization. And the user interface is no frills, it looks very easy to use, and it's understandable. All the icons look like something you would understand from Windows, so it's easy to get into. But I can see why some people probably wouldn't like it too terribly much over, say, Windows 7 or something, or Zorin OS for that matter. But anyway, to summarize everything up, I really like Linux Lite. I do think that a lot of people would get to like this very well, and I do think that it's something that, if you don't like Windows but you can't afford a Mac, this is something you can look into. And it definitely does, check most of the boxes. So, anyways, that's it for this video. Until next time, guys. Thanks for watching.